Hi, and welcome to New God Sunday School. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, starring Adam Starr and the Solar Legion. From Image Comics. Final order cutoff is on Monday, so if you want your local comics retailer to reserve a copy of Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, let them know as soon as possible. So here's Super Escape Artist Mr. Miracle number 12. Bound to a torpedo, speeding toward a deadly mine. Can he free himself with only seconds left? Also, complete in this issue, Mistovac, the Speed Trap. And so this is the last surviving title of Jack Kirby's New Gods saga. New Gods was canceled with the final issue being issue 11. Same with the Forever People. And now Mr. Miracle has made it to issue 12. And you'll notice in this issue, there are no references whatsoever to Mother Boxes, Apocalypse, all that stuff. Jack Kirby has left all of those things behind in the past. And he's trying to figure out what the Mr. Miracle comic book is in a post-New Gods world. Doing his best to make it into a standalone comic book. So Mr. Miracle is doing one of his patented escape acts. He's being shot out of a submarine, chained to a torpedo. He has to bust his way out. The art's looking good. The torpedo explodes. Oberon's watching nervously, and then out of the water comes Mr. Miracle. He's okay. Meanwhile, a rich dude and his butler are watching, kind of like Funky Flashman, but much less interesting, much more cookie cutter, sort of like, Heredity, Environment, like those two guys in the Three Stooges decide they're going to make gentlemen out of the Three Stooges. And he's got this robot, Mistovac, who is his chauffeur. He's seen enough. He's going to try to make a quick buck off of Mr. Miracle by betting against him. All of the people at his hoity-toity social club are all big Mr. Miracle fans, and they're all betting on Mr. Miracle, and he's going to make the big bucks by betting against him and making sure that it's certain death for Mr. Miracle. So now we have this photo op set up by Ted Brown, their manager, of Mr. Miracle shaking hands with some admiral or somebody, Admiral Case. Mr. Miracle, this sort of symbol of doing things your own way, the 60s counterculture is now, in a post-New Gods world, is now a shill for the military-industrial complex. Edited, written, and drawn by Jack Kirby, inked by that popular pro, Mike Royer. And we get a lot of Ted Brown, Ted Brown's the surest sign that Jack Kirby's trying to make Mr. Miracle into more of a DC comic. Ted Brown is duller than dishwater, just takes up space, brings nothing to the story. In my opinion, it would have been better if Mr. Miracle had signed some kind of deal with Funky Flashman and Funky Flashman was representing him, because Funky Flashman is at least an interesting, lively character that brings some kind of dynamic, some humor, some sense of danger. Ted Brown got spit out of the Jack Kirby background factory. This is just like somebody who should be in the background, looking up at the sky when, the Silver Surfer shows up or something. He shouldn't be a major supporting character. Before they can snap a picture of this historic handshake, the reporters all run off because they find out there's a bigger story going on. It's at the beach, and there's a lot of excitement going on. And as it turns out, it's that the Big Barda and her female Furies are going for a swim, and they caught these sailors ogling them. And so, hijinks ensue. Again, it's not necessarily a bad comic. It's just, I remember what was happening in earlier issues and how it was so life-shattering and just like indispensable great comics. And then this issue here is just, it's just filler. It's just okay. And so it just, by comparison, just seems that much worse. If you only knew Jack Kirby's Marvel work with Stan Lee, and then you showed somebody this comic, if you showed them this comic, they might come to the conclusion of, oh yeah, Jack Kirby needs Stan Lee. Without Stan Lee, his work is completely, flat. The characterization is boring and cookie cutter, and he really needs Stan Lee to add like a little bit of panache to his comics. And you might be able to make an argument for that just based on this comic, but if you read a couple issues previous, that's not the case at all. I mean, Jack Kirby by himself, I would argue, is better than Jack Kirby with Stan Lee, in my personal opinion. But you're just not seeing that this issue. This issue is, if I wasn't doing this New God Sunday School, I don't know that I would ever, read this comic otherwise. I read it once or twice, and that was enough for me. Maybe I might like flip through it and just, look at some of the drawings, some of the art, some of the action sequences, but it's a, completely inconsequential comic. Again, nothing wrong with that, but, when they say, comics, they're not just for kids anymore, that's not the case here. This is a comic that is, basically, passes the time and doesn't really do much more than that. Passes the time in a lively, interesting way. And if you'd never read a Jack Kirby comic before and saw this, it's still got, those, sort of visual flourishes that are so much fun, and action and humor. It's just, there's a million much better examples of Jack Kirby doing his thing than this. So we have another, again, it's all practice. It's all, we're spending a lot of time. I mean, in previous issues, there would be the thing of, practicing a new routine or whatever, and then things get serious. But here it's like, okay, we practiced a routine. Now we're practicing another routine, and then things get serious. And we need things for the female Furies to do. It was exciting as the cast was building, but now all of a sudden, Mr. Miracle and Big Barda have these house guests who are out staying their welcome. The friendship's starting to sour because there's nothing for them to do. The story just has it doesn't have that little extra something special that makes a comic great. There's something missing. You can't quite put your finger on it. I don't know if, just maybe having a character say like, oh, Darkseid sent me, or, High Father wouldn't approve of this, or, I don't know if that would make that much a difference, but I mean, maybe, but it definitely does feel like something's missing, and it's really felt in its absence. So we get this nice little sequence set up, and this big, boulder is coming at Mr. Miracle, and the phone call that he had previously was with Miss Devac, and Miss Devac did a hypnotic thing to make Mr. Miracle subconsciously invite death and not try to escape, which again, that is an interesting concept. It's just not doing it for me. So Mr. Miracle does not do anything to get himself free of his shackles as those giant rocks are coming towards him. Barda realizes there's something wrong, and she intervenes and smashes it. And that's kind of an interesting development, because it's been set up in previous issues that every single time it looks like Mr. Miracle's not going to get out of it, but then it's always like, no, let him do his thing, and he always gets out. So this is the first time he doesn't, and so that does create a little bit of tension, and her choosing to act in that moment does say something about her and her sensitivity and her her feelings for Mr. Miracle. We haven't gotten to a point yet where any kind of like romantic subplot is overtly introduced. Mr. Miracle and Big Barda are, up to this point, platonic friends, and that continues up until the final issue, actually. So again, all, very dry, just, sort of, it's kind of like Kirby stripped to his bones, like all the Kirbyisms, but like minimal this kind of stuff, minimal sort of, the Kirby inventiveness. It's just kind of, again, it feels a lot closer to the DC Comics work that he was doing in the 50s at DC, very sort of buttoned down, sort of workman-like comics, as opposed to the bananas comics that he's been doing at DC in the 70s up to this point, up until the cancellation of New Gods and Forever People. And so now we're at this temple that Miss Devac lives in. Miss Devac the fight breaks out. They're fighting. And then here's a highlight of the issue. SNIK, It's one letter away from SNIK, and it's one claw away from Wolverine. We saw Mad Harriet doing she didn't have retractable claws, but now we got all the ingredients. So this is, Wolverine before Wolverine. Istovac, a Wolverine prototype. So the fight continues, action-packed excitement. And then we get like a nice little twist reveal, like a 50s sci-fi story that Kirby would have done at DC in the 50s. He takes off the helmet, and there he is, this little alien who's been trapped on Earth and controlling Istovac. There's a scene similar to this in the first Men in Black movie, and then now this Mr. Monopoly guy, his butler, is pulling a gun on Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle moves out of the way, and the bullet smashes Istovac's protective dome, and now he's dying. The Monopoly guy's making a getaway. Oberon trips him. This is a nice moment. Istovac has turned to dust, and Mr. Miracle's hood circuits are fried. He doesn't refer to it as Mother Box. That's a duplicate of Mother Box circuits that he made on his hood an issue ago. And so, Mother Box has been completely wiped out of the story. Again, there's no mention of Apocalypse, Mother Boxes, and that's by design. Jack Kirby is the sole survivor of the New Gods experiment, and it's not. I guess DC or Kirby or both of them are sort of chalking that up as a failed experiment, and now they're just doing meat and potatoes superheroes, but sort of superheroes minus. This is like Marvel minus. I'd say it's more akin to what Wally Wood was doing with Thunder Agents. Again, you have, cool looking characters, beautiful drawings, exciting action sequences, but the characters and the stakes are just kind of cardboard and falling flat. Ted Brown's okay. Hooray. We get Ted Brown's origin story. We get to find out why Thaddeus Brown, the original Mr. Miracle, said his son died in the Korean War, and why he all of a sudden is okay. They're going to try to tie that loose end up in the next issue. And we have the letters column, and you'll notice we've lost the connections to the larger New Gods mythology, and we've also lost Mark Evanier. These letters columns were done by Mark Evanier and Steve Sherman. Now it's just Steve Sherman. Rest in peace, Steve. Steve was a great guy. I got to meet him, a real prince. And, most of the letters concern, what's the deal with Mr. Miracle's mask? How does it work? How does his mask have lips that move and whatnot. Some other questions are about, what's the deal with Ted Brown? How didn't they say he died in the first issue? How come he's okay and nobody's making a big deal out of it? So that's issue 12 of Mr. Miracle. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. And Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, starring Adam Starr and the Solar Legion from Image Comics. Monday is the final order cutoff date for Jack Kirby's Star Warriors. So if you want your comics retailer to set aside a copy for you, let them know ASAP. I'll see you next time for New God Sunday School.